You know, the threat from algae has been known for some time, just what Patrick was talking about. Also, thanks to the research of scientists like my next guest, Jeff Reutter. He's the director of the Ohio Sea Grant at The Ohio State University. Jeff, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you.
Good to be on.
All right, so we're talking about one part of Lake Erie and 400,000 people affected over this weekend, but you believe that other communities are going to be impacted by algal blooms like this in the next couple of weeks, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a sure thing that other blooms or other communities are going to be sucking in these blooms. It was interesting, the conditions last Friday really led to a lot of algae right over Toledo, but there was a big change over the weekend, and that bloom grew a great deal, and it's now moved out toward the island area. It's covering the shoreline down to about Port Clinton, and it's partially moved into the Central Basin also. And as we look at it, the bloom is going to persist in some locations along the shoreline till December, and the prediction would be that it reaches its greatest severity in September.
So talk to me a little bit about that, Jeff, because we're not even really in the prime season. We will be looking at more September and October is when we've previously seen these blooms that were much larger.
Yes, this bloom will be larger in September than it is right now, and it really grew a lot in the last 3 days. It'll go up and down, but the greatest severity we would predict is going to be in September. By the time you get to late September, the bloom is likely going to be pretty bad out around the island area, but it will be easing in the Toledo area. And by October, the bloom is going to be in the island and Central Basin and pretty much gone from Toledo. And by the end of October, it will be done for the year.
All right, so Jeff, so talk to me a little bit about in terms of the threat for drinking water. So when people hear that things can get worse and move a little bit around the lake, they're thinking, okay, is it going to affect my community? What should communities be doing right now in terms of preparation for that, in terms of drinking water? And then talk to me a little bit down the road. If we can't stop these blooms from happening, do cities have to do some kind of investing in their water supply and water filtration systems to combat this?
Well, we have to do both things. I mean, obviously, we have to reduce the loading of phosphorus to Lake Erie, and we have to reduce the loading of phosphorus and really nitrogen also to all of our freshwater bodies, because these blooms are becoming more prevalent all over the country. In Lake Erie, we know we have the blooms, and we know we're not going to be able to reduce phosphorus as quickly as I'm sure anybody would like. So in the meantime, we have to be able to treat the toxins or treat the algae as they come into the water treatment plants. And that's going to require some type of a treatment that's typically an addition of activated charcoal or carbon of some type that removes the toxin from the water. I believe Toledo spent $4 million doing that last year, and communities should be prepared to do more of that in the future until we get the amount of phosphorus going into the lake reduced.
Is that something that communities have to do immediately, Jeff, or is that something that is going to be down the line? When you talk about $4 million, and a lot of communities don't have that kind of municipal funding, that's a large amount.
Most communities don't have a water intake as large as Toledo. Toledo's in a very bad situation in that it's a large community, and it's in the location where the algal blooms will be the worst. Cleveland, for instance, further to the east, is a larger community, larger water intakes, 4 water intakes instead of 1. So Cleveland has the advantage of being able to choose which of the water intakes it wants to use, and it can pick an intake that has lower algae concentrations, but the concentration of harmful algae around the Cleveland area will never be as severe or last as long as it does around Toledo.
All right, Jeff Reutter from Ohio Sea Grant, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.